Here we go again with another television show based on something I love. Um, so this is like maybe going to be a little bit different. I am making this because I am a huge Lord of the Rings fan. Huge Lord of the Rings fan. Fell in love with the book right before the original movie came out in 2001. Saw the film, fell in love with it. When I say, I know it sounds corny and cliche when people say it, but this story, the book, the movie, the characters, it literally changed my life. It, I want to say that I was kind of in, and again, I really hate sounding cliche and shit, but it's really the only way for me to describe it is to say this shit. I was in a dark place, whatever that means, and I remember the story and then the movies coming out and really falling in love with that, and it really it really helped keep me afloat at the time. And so I've gone on to love Lord of the Rings. I think that the Lord of the Rings film trilogy is the best film series of all time. The best. Lord of the Rings: The Fellowship of the Ring is my favorite movie of all time. And so anything Lord of the Rings, I'm normally paying attention to. This was coming out, and I already knew that it was going to be garbage because it's now the time frame that we live in. I knew it was going to be garbage. And then I started to see things in the trailers and in the pictures, which made me realize that this was going to be garbage. One of the main things I want to say is you have, whenever you see people doing certain things in shows like showcasing, well, I'm not going to say that, but one of the main things, when you start to see race swapping and politically correct stuff being done just for no reason, really, just to be done, always know that the product that it's attached to, at least 98% of the time, is going to be a real piece of garbage. And the reason that they're attaching this politically correct crap in there is so that they can drum up some attention and get people at least talking about the product and to pull in a new audience. That's one of the main reasons. Pull in as much of an audience as you can because you know that the product that you're making is garbage. So you want to try and convince other people other than actual fans who are going to see it and critique it honestly. You want to pull those other people in so that they can boost your numbers and help propel your show and prop it up and give it more views and more attention. That's really why that's happening. And that's going to bring me into my real first point is I kind of want to go over this so that people can kind of get an understanding, at least how I feel. I don't know about other fans. There are people out there who are just, dick-sucking racists and they're losers. And if they see anyone that is non-white in something, they get angry because they're jealous, pathetic losers and racist pieces of trash. But not everybody is, and I definitely am not. I'm black, so if I see black people and stuff, I wouldn't get angry unless it's being done in, and I guess a disrespectful way to the fans. So before we get started, I want to talk about why I personally don't like seeing these types of things. I made a video earlier about The Witcher, and I complained about non-whites being in that show. And it seems out of place to real fans of this type of genre because this genre is based on European folklore. It's based on European fiction, European history. So when you're watching something based on European folklore, and not even just all European, just northeastern or northwestern European culture and folklore and history, you don't expect to see Asians or South Americans or blacks or Africans in the show because it kind of throws you off. You're like, why are these characters in here? That's number one. Number two, when you're reading these stories, they never describe those races of people in the shows. Or I'm sorry, in the initial story. So when you see it, you're like, well, where did that come from? Why is there a black hobbit? And this black hobbit has a West Indian accent. It takes you out of the story. And as a fan, not just a casual person watching it, but as a fan, it's kind of it's kind of fucked up to you because this product that you know and you love and you've helped prop up and push into the stratosphere, you're finally getting to, or other people are finally getting to see what you love, and then when they see it, they're kind of seeing something completely different, and you're like, well, why would you make that change? The original creator didn't mention this. He didn't put any of that stuff in there. So why are you doing that? So seeing a black hobbit or a Puerto Rican elf, that's Asian dwarf. It's like, what the fuck is this? Why is this in the show? And it annoys us. And it isn't even just, I can't even say that it's just a thing that racist white people may complain about, because that's not the case. We complain about it for almost everything else. So Netflix released a live action version of this really popular manga called what the hell was the name of that? Death Note. They released their own version, and in this version, the two main characters, I forget the kid's name. The kid that got access to Death Note and the other young person who was the detective or the investigator who helped find him out, they're both Japanese. But in the show, they make them white and black. And I'm like, why the fuck are you changing the races of these characters? Why aren't you making them Japanese? That was an issue then. Dragon Ball Z. We were upset when the movie came out and the characters were all white. Or most of the characters, the important characters were all white. But why are you doing that? Why would you? Even white people were upset and complaining. Avatar movie came out. Live action version of Avatar came out, and this story is based on these Asian characters. And not only do you have the characters mixed up, you have Western Asians in there, you have Indian people in there playing characters that should be Eastern Asian, but then you also have the main characters played by white people. And even white people complain, why the hell is Aang a white kid? Why are you doing that? So it's not just racists or white racists who are upset about race swapping. We don't like that being done in our stories. Unless unless those people are actually in the story, then why are you doing that? What's the reason behind doing it? And a lot of people will say, well, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Black people are always, or other races are always complaining about not being included and there not being any inclusion in stories. And then when we include them in stories, then they're upset that we're actually including them in the stories. And to that I say, well, that's bullshit. Because we're not actually being included. This isn't inclusive. You're not being inclusive by adding these characters in. What you're doing is taking a handful of non-white people and maybe giving them a job. That's all well and good. But you're not actually being inclusive. And the reason I say that is the people that are making these decisions, the production team, the head honchos, the people that are in charge, the people that are making the big bucks, those people are all white. All of these people are always all white. When we say we want to be included, we don't mean we want white people writing stories about us and they getting all of the attention, the praise, the accolades, and the money by them writing a story. Asian people want to be included, meaning give us the job. Stop excluding us from the industry. Stop keeping us out of the industry. Hispanic people want to be included in the industry. Black people want to be included in the industry. We want the same seat at the table that you have. We want to be the creators. We want to be the writers. We want to be the casting directors. We want to be the actual directors. We want to be the actors. We want that. That's what we want. We don't want white production companies just hiring a handful of non-white people and saying, hey, we're being inclusive of all you people because we're hiring you for every so often for a few of our little events. Happy now? No, we don't want that, because when you look at certain things like, let's say Miss Marvel, the Kamala Khan character, these two people, these are her creators. These are the people who created her. When you think of the Miles Morales character, these are the people that created him. These are the two people that created him. So we're not talking about, oh, well, just put a little bit out, just talk about us. We don't want to just be thrown scraps. Stop trying to just placate us with this stupid bullshit. What we want is to be the actual, we want a seat at the table like the rest. That's what we mean by inclusion. So by hiring a handful of non-white people and putting them in these shows, that doesn't do anything but piss off the fans, unless those people are actually in the stories. And it doesn't do anything to include us because, again, we're not being included. It's just some crumbs being thrown off of the white-run table to non-white people, and we don't want that. We want a fucking seat at the table. Stop excluding us from these industries and keeping us out of these industries. That's what we mean by inclusive. So that's why the race swapping is annoying to us actual fans. It's not because we don't like people who are not white. Obviously, I'm not white. I'm black myself. So that's not the reason. The reason is, as fans, we are upset that you are changing something that we know and love to cater to another audience who doesn't even care about this product. If the people don't care about the product, why the fuck are you making the product for them and not for us? It's our product. Now, if those people fall in love with the initial product, well, that's great. We welcome other fans coming in. But don't spit in our face, take something that we propped up, and then make it for someone else. And then when we complain and say, hey, what is this? Look at us and say, hey, what's wrong with you? You're not being inclusive. So that's why we don't like that. We don't like that, and the non-white people, we don't like being placated to. Stop bullshitting us and telling us that you're being inclusive by keeping us out of the industry and only throwing some crumbs to a handful of non-whites and saying, see, we're doing what you asked. No, that's disrespectful to us. So that's the race thing. The second thing is the females. I think a lot of people are like me, and because we've seen it for, I think it's been almost a decade now, where they have actually been taking a shot at males for some reason, and at this point, we're just annoyed. So now when we see it, we just get annoyed. So things like Ocean's 11, Ghostbusters have been swapped. You take this product, again, that has been made by men and have been propped up by men and made famous by men, and then you say, well, because of that, we're going to take this product and make it all female. So, but we don't understand why you're doing that. And if you do it enough, it annoys us. Movies like The Eternals comes out and you change male characters into females. But why are you doing that? It's like people are trying to punish heterosexual males for some reason, and we haven't done anything. And when I say heterosexual males, I don't mean the white heterosexual males at the top who you guys have a grudge against. It's like all of us males are being affected. And we don't understand, well, why are you taking the things we know and love and then giving it to the females? You wouldn't do that with female stuff. You wouldn't take a female show like Sailor Moon and then release it as a movie with all male characters. Of course you wouldn't do that. Why would you? We wouldn't expect you to do that. So why are you doing it with us? Why would you take the Ghostbusters and remove all of the males and just make it an all-female thing? Why are you doing that? Are males not allowed to have anything? So that's one of the reasons why us males get so annoyed when we see things like this. Even me, when I saw a blonde-haired female that was going to be the lead in this show, I was like, oh, well, fuck this. It's not because I don't like females. It's because I've been seeing it. We've been being stepped on for so long at this point that whenever we get a hint or a glimpse of it, we're like, oh, well, fuck that. I'm not even going to pay attention to it. Now, eventually, once I realized it was Galadriel, I was like, oh, well, obviously she's one of the biggest characters in the book, one of the most important, so I don't care. That I'll pay attention to, because now I know that they didn't just swap a character. This may be a story about Galadriel. That's fine. I don't mind watching that, because she's actually a character in the book. So I don't mind seeing that, and I don't mind watching that. And that's the only reason why I paid it any attention. Another thing is, in this particular story, from what I've seen, it's only been 2 episodes. You have, it looks like a kind of a push for the female heroes, which again isn't a bad thing. But as males, we're wondering once again, well, why? Why are you doing that? You have Galadriel, which is fine, but then you have this other female named Nori, this little hobbit girl. She don't even exist in the book. So out of all the characters in the Silmarillion, you had to create a female character. You couldn't focus on any. Why did you feel the need to create a female character? Is it because men are just bad and penises are bad? I don't understand why you felt the need you had to create a female character when you have all these other characters to choose from. If there aren't enough female characters in the story for you to choose from, well, then you're going to have to pick a male character. I mean, if you want to make something that is female driven, that's perfectly fine. Nobody cares about that. Go ahead and make that. But don't take something that has been made by a man. Don't take something from an industry that has been celebrated and propped up and made into such a large thing that you want to make movies about it. Don't take that industry, which has been predominantly loved and celebrated by males, the fantasy genre, and don't say, well, I'm going to take this from the males so that I can make something for the females. It doesn't seem like you're trying to make something for females. It seems like you have a select group of people who are trying to get revenge on males, and we don't know why. And the group I'm talking about are homosexual men, homosexual women, and heterosexual women. It's like they and of course you have heterosexual men who are businessmen who think that this is the trend that they should be following in order to make a profit, and so that's why they're doing that. But primarily it's homosexual men, heterosexual women, and homosexual feminist women. And it's like, well, the heterosexual men have all these things that they know and love, and they feel that they don't have enough, so they're gonna what? Take our stuff to make it theirs? Okay, if you like throwing money in the trash. If you like, which is funny because our homosexual brothers and sisters always complain about being the underdog and how they need representation and help, and not representation, but how they need help, and they try to compare themselves to let's say black people, that they are this I can't even think of the fucking word, that they're this group of people who are just being stepped on and shit upon, and that they need all this power because they don't have any power. But then you look at stuff like this and stuff that's going on in the industry, and it's like, well, you guys seem to have a bottomless bucket of money to just throw at shit. Because they just keep throwing money at this shit, and it's not going to change anything. It's not changing shit. You just keep throwing money in the garbage because you keep making these changes to cater to females and to homosexuals, and us heterosexual males, well, we're not playing along. So you like throwing money in the trash. It's been years now. You keep throwing money in the garbage, these guys made this show with billions of dollars, and the heterosexual males who make up the vast majority of the fan base, well, we're not interested in it because you didn't make it for us. So we're not going to give you our time and money and attention. And that's what seems to be happening, and I don't understand why. So that's the whole thing with the female thing. It's not that us heterosexual males are sexist, and most of us are sexist and don't like women. It's just we're noticing a pattern. So whenever we see something like this, it kind of sparks something in us, and we get annoyed. Like, are they doing this shit again? It's Lord. Why do they have the need to do that? Not only do we not understand that, but this story that was written by a male and that was made famous thanks to males, this story has two very important, very powerful female characters in the story. So it's not like like we've been trying to exclude females from our things. We always tend to have at least one strong female character. Galadriel, who was written by a man and who was in a story and in a genre that has been popularized by mostly males, is one of the strongest characters in the damn story. Arwen takes down one of the biggest, I think she takes down the second biggest villain in the book. Arwen almost single-handedly takes down the second biggest villain in the book.
Fool. No man can kill me.
I am no man.
So we're not, as males, we're not disregarding females. We obviously know they exist. They're very important to us. Heterosexual men know how powerful females are to us because they dominate our existence. So when we make stuff, we put them in there. Now, we may not fill the story with them, but that's only because as males, we're writing from our perspective and we're catering to a certain audience. That's the only reason they're not filled, but they're not the stories aren't overflowing with females, but the females exist in the stories. So you don't have to go out and say fuck you to men by saying, well, I'm going to make female characters powerful in your story. We already have those characters in our stories. We already acknowledge and recognize women as powerful individuals and powerful creatures. So we put them in our stories. That's why you have in all of these male products, you have all of these strong female characters to choose from. So when we see you trying to take jabs at us by taking stories that we've made and that we've made famous and then removing us and replacing us with females, we're like, why are you doing that? We don't understand where the annoyance is coming from and where the anger is coming from, or why you would be doing that, what the need is. So I just wanted to get that off my chest. Sorry, but that's a lot of stuff that a lot of people are talking about, and I just had to go over why us fans are annoyed at the race switching and at seeing females at the forefront. That's the reason. So now on to this fucking show. So the show itself, the show is a beautiful show. The costumes and everything are great. Everything looks nice. But like I say in most of my other reviews and stuff, when I'm talking about pop culture, that's not important. That's not a big deal anymore. Because these people have access to so much money, and because the industry has grown to such a height that if you pay for the right people, you're going to get a nice looking product. And that's what we got. The effects and things are so well, have gotten to such a high point that, well, now we expect to see that. If you don't have that, then we're wondering what the hell's wrong with you. And this show, had like $1 billion thrown at the wall? So yeah, it's gonna look nice, and it looks great. The acting is great. All the actors are doing a great job. Again, that's not a big deal anymore. Nobody hires shitty actors anymore. If you have the money, you can afford it. So I want to acknowledge that it looks great, but that's not a big deal anymore. That's not a big deal. The story is always the attention to detail and the respect paid to whatever source material you're taking from. That's really what's important nowadays. And for this show, it looked like they did pay attention to detail a bit, and that they were, I guess they were paying respect to the source material in a way. But in a way they weren't, and in a way there was just laziness. So first off, the music, they advertised that Howard Shore is back and he's doing the music. He's not really doing the music. He's doing the opening music. The real score is a great score. The soundtrack scene is great, but they have musical cues for things. And I don't know how to explain this, but the music will swell. Normally when you're watching a show or a movie, the music kind of leads you through. If it's not that well written, especially, the music is used to lead you through the story. It kind of gives you cues that, oh, well, this is supposed to be sad. Oh, this is supposed to be exciting. Oh, well, this is supposed to be reflective. Oh, this is supposed to be happy. And the music leads you through with these little cues so that it kind of flows with the story, like you're going down a river and it's just leading you along, and it pushes you here, it raises you here, it drops you there. That's what the music is supposed to do. And and a good number of these new things that are being made, I'm not even going to say that. It's not even a good number. It's hit or miss, or it's here or there. It's not often. But I've been noticing in certain things where the musical cues are just there for no reason. There was one point where the hobbits were doing something, and it like zoomed in on some berries, and the music swelled. I'm like, what? Are the berries a big deal? Or am I supposed to be focusing on these berries? Why is the music swelling? And it does that a lot throughout the show, and it was throwing me off. Like, why the music seems out of place. So I had issues with the music. Then as just a fantasy fan, I'm just going to go, I'm sorry, let me pull up this little list I have here. So a lot of it's going to be about the elves, because that's what these two episodes focus on the most. The elves in here, first thing, let me say this about being a fantasy fan, not even a fantasy fan, because you can do it with fantasy, but with Lord of the Rings. So let's talk about elves. So in Lord of the Rings, the elves are sort of like this otherworldly race. They're like sort of like angels or gods. You can't really focus on them that much, or it kind of changes what the characters are supposed to be and what they're supposed to represent. That's why in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the first movie, The Fellowship, which is really where a lot of the fantasy is, you visit elven places. You visit two of them in one movie. Then the next two movies primarily focus on men, because that's what makes the story fantastic. The men and the hobbits are kind of the men obviously represent humanity, but the hobbits are also a representation of the innocence of humanity. The elves are kind of like this otherworldly higher being that you're not supposed to be interacting with too much in the story, because then it removes that fantastic element, and it kind of makes them more human, which you don't want to do, because again, they're supposed to be like these angels, like these gods. You're only supposed to be interacting with them in certain ways. That's why Legolas doesn't have too many speaking lines in the movies. And then there's times when he's speaking where it sounds like he's reading poetry or he's singing. The story is supposed to get you to that point where you feel like these characters, when you encounter these characters, that they're these otherworldly beings. So you don't want too many of them around and going over them too much, because then it removes that aura that they have around them, and it makes them more human. That's why you don't want to do that in these stories. So when they're doing it in this show, it kind of takes away from what elves are in the Tolkien universe. You start to see they're being petty, they're making stupid decisions, they're being selfish, they're being dumb, and it takes away from that. Look at, just for example, look at Galadriel in the Fellowship of the Ring. When you see her, she is like this queen goddess from another world. She seems magical in a way. When you see her in this, she just seems like some average, everyday dumb bitch. And you don't understand. I didn't understand why they would decide to do that. Why you would make something that would focus on these characters like that. It didn't make any sense to me. So that was an issue for me. The elves in this, they all look like woodland elves. There's two different types of elves. You have these higher sort of sylvan elves, and then you have like the woodland elves, like the group that Legolas belonged to. All of them just look like woodland elves. Their clothes, the way that they looked, their hair, they didn't look like these higher elves that are described in the story. And as a fan, it takes you out of the story. You have characters you have ugly elves. The elves are supposed to be these beautiful creatures. Elrond had like a crooked face. And like, well, if you're gonna change Elrond, because Hugo Weaving isn't a handsome man. He ain't that handsome of a man. So I never knew why they picked him initially, but he worked fine in the story. Whatever. He's supposed to be this elder elf, so fine. That's fine. But now you're doing like a younger Elrond. So why would you pick someone who's ugly? Again, this is nitpick stuff as a fan of the source material. Why are you going to pick people that are ugly? Celebrimbor looked like a senior citizen. These are elves. They're not supposed to look old. They're elves. They're supposed to be. They're supposed to live forever. Always look. They're always supposed to look graceful, elegant, beautiful, powerful, and young. That's how they're always supposed to look. But here you have all these different types of elves. Some are frumpy looking. Some have crooked faces. Galadriel looked like a plain Jane, everyday girl that you see working at a supermarket. Celebrimbor looked like an old man. That takes away from the story, and it takes away from these characters, and it draws you out as a fan. Again, that's why I say we get annoyed as fans, because it's like, first of all, are you making this for us? Maybe you're making it for people that don't have a connection to the story, and if that's the case, well, fuck you, and I'm not going to watch your show. And if you are making it for us, well, are you paying attention to the story? Do you know the story? Do you know any of this stuff? Another issue is, why are the elves speaking English all the time? That's another reason why they're not always in the fucking story. That's why the Lord of the Rings story was such a great story, and it worked. These otherworldly beings who have this otherworldly language, well, it's the language isn't filled in the book because you're not always around them. The majority of characters you're around are human or hobbits. So you don't expect to hear that language all the time. But when you're around them, well, you expect to hear Elvish, especially when the fucking language exists. We already have the full language fleshed out. But in this, they're all speaking English. They speak Elvish every once in a while, and for the majority of the story, they're speaking English. Now, I know people are going to say, well, obviously they're going to speak English because whatever, because the viewers the viewers are not elves. They don't speak that, so people aren't going to want to be reading all the time. But that's just laziness. If you're making it for the fans, well, the fans will understand and they'll read it. Again, that means you're not making it for us. You're just making a product that you know has some fame, and you're trying to make money. And that's the feeling that we get when we watch these shows. Because you're saying, well, the majority of people aren't going to want to read, and I'm trying to make some money, bitch. So watch this. I'm going to make it accessible to everybody. That's all well and good, but it shows your laziness. It shows your true intention, and then it shows, once we realize your true intention, well, now we're going to really critique your show. You better be making a good fucking show then. If you're not making a good fucking show, well, we know you're just making it for the money, so now we're going to critique it a little bit more. And us fans are going to get a little bit more annoyed. It doesn't make any sense that these guys are speaking a foreign language 95% of the time to each other. That's stupid. That would be like making a movie about Spanish people and they're speaking Russian throughout the whole story. And they're in Spain. So that's stupid, and it shouldn't have been in there. It doesn't make any sense. And I'm reading down a list, so if everything is not going, if it seems like it's out of order, that's whatever. I wanted to talk about, again, the whole female thing. So the laziness is apparent in these stories because they do certain things that don't make any sense. So in the Fellowship of the Ring, you have all of these characters. I mean, you have some pretty powerful guys in there, some heavy hitters. You have Boromir, who has been fighting for a while. You have Aragorn, who has spent his life traveling and fighting. You have Legolas, who has spent centuries traveling and fighting. You have Gimli, who's spent centuries traveling and fighting. And then you have a fucking elf. A wizard. The second most powerful wizard in the damn world. And these guys get trapped in Moria, and they have to fight off a troll. And it takes all of them to fight the troll. All of these powerful characters I just mentioned all had to band together and fight a troll. And even then they had a hard time fighting this troll in these close quarters. Fast forward to this shit, And you have the female character who kills a troll all by herself. Very easily, I might add. So this lady's in a cave, and the troll is just wiping people out. And Galadriel comes in, and I'm gonna kill a troll immediately, with minimal effort. It's stupidity. It's laziness. It's unearned. And we see the laziness, and we see you're not making it for us fans. Who are you making this for? Is it supposed to be a wet dream for females only? All the males that were with her were like tossed around like bitches. She comes in and takes down the troll all by herself. Okay, fine. If you want to establish the character as being that way, fine. But they never did. This is the first fucking episode? And Galadriel comes in as fans who are watching, we're going to say, well, first of all, not only does that make sense, but why would it be Galadriel as the character who is single-handedly doing that? I think a company of elves, I'm sorry, I keep fucking up. A company of dwarves had a hard time taking on 3 trolls out in the open. All had weapons. All were fully rested and had eaten. But here, you have one female elf who is hungry. She's tired because she's been walking these long distances. They've been walking and can't even feel their limbs because it's so cold and they've been out on the road for so long. A troll comes in, no problem. I got a vagina. I got it. I take it down just by myself. And again, as fans, we see it and it doesn't make sense, because if we know that a huge company of dwarves, fully armored with weapons, had a hard time taking on 3 trolls out in the open and needed the help of Gandalf to come in and use a trick to turn the trolls into stone, well then why would an elf be able to take one of these things down? As a fantasy fan, even if you're not a Lord of the Rings fan, as a fantasy fan, it wouldn't make any sense. Dwarves and elves, that's the beauty in fantasy, is all these different races have their attributes that are all different. Dwarves are they're like little tanks. They're these short, squat, insanely strong fuckers who carry around weapons that are used to break and shatter. They're like little tanks running around. Elves are like little Formula One race cars. If they hit a wall, they're going to explode immediately. But they're quick and they're accurate and their weapons are very sharp, and that's what makes them and they're agile and they're nimble. That's what makes them very dangerous. That's why you see Legolas fighting the way he does in the original trilogy. Jumping all over the place, flipping all over the place, quickly moving here and there. Him fighting a big character, a big strong thing like that all on his own, that'd be different. And if you say, well, he took down the Oliphant all by himself, well, that's 2 different fights. The Oliphant is an even dumber animal who didn't even know Legolas was on his back, didn't even know what was happening until arrows got shot into his neck. The troll that Galadriel's fighting is a bit smarter than an elephant and knows what's going on and is ready for the fight and is engaging in the fight. Yet she's able to take it out easily when dwarves have a hard time doing it. That doesn't make sense. As fans, it takes us away from the story. And it makes the story look stupid. And it makes it look like you don't know what you're doing. So that was annoying. And then Galadriel's on the road, and like I said, these trolls took out almost her whole company by itself very quickly. So to me, that means they had no warriors with them. Were there any warriors there? Was she the only warrior? What were these other guys? Scholars? All these elves had an issue with one troll in a cave where they weren't prepared. Oh man, so it's just a lot of stupidity's happening. And then I think these are the last 2 points, because this was only the first 2 episodes, and I'm watching it. I'm very bored, and I only wrote down stuff that kind of stood out to me. The last 2 things is you have this scene where Elrond is with Celebrimbor, and they're talking about making this great factsmith, this forge, and Elrond tells him, well, why don't we go to Khazad-dûm and talk to the dwarves? And Celebrimbor is like, oh yeah, I'd love, you know, some dwarves that are into that stuff that we could talk to. And I'm sitting there again, just the laziness in these stories where these dick suckers, it's like they don't even use common sense when writing stories. Celebrimbor is this great smith. All right, maybe for people that out there that don't understand, elves are known for their weapons, and they're known for making great things, but they're known for a lot of the stuff that they're known for are scholarly things, making stories, songs, spells. Dwarves, on the other hand, are really known for their smithing work, for making all these different types of weapons and jewelry and armor. They're known for that. That's their thing. In fantasy, dwarves are known for doing that. If you want something really strong and powerful, you go to find some dwarves and buy it from them. Of course, elves make some great stuff too, but it's really the dwarves that are known for that. So you're telling me that this great elven smith who's been alive for centuries, he never interacted or sought out any dwarven smiths to expand his craft? Never? This is going to be his first time after all of these centuries. He's like, you know what? Right up, several miles away, there's this whole dwarven city where they just make shit, and they're experts at their craft, masters of their craft. I don't think I want to ever interact with them. I'm never going to talk to them or seek them out or anything like that. I'm just going to stick to myself and try to figure it all out on my own. That shit doesn't make any sense. So he had never had any he was like so shocked. Oh, can you take me to the dwarves? You think the dwarves? Do you think, Elrond, you could help me take the and then I'm watching it. I'm like, this guy never interacted. He doesn't have any sort of relationship with these dwarven smiths. Even if it was just as someone who trades. You don't even trade products with them. They're fucking dwarves. They're known for being the best blacksmiths of all time. Why would you not? So that doesn't make any sense. Jesus Christ. And then Elrond is going to take Celebrimbor to go see these dwarves, and they set off and they leave, and they show on the screen this little journey. It's kind of like they show it on the map. They show where they are, and they show where they are in relation to Khazad-dûm, and then it shows the trail that they take. And it looks like a fairly long trail. It looks like it probably took them, a day or two. And then when they switch over to the next shot, these guys are walking with robes and nothing in their hands. They don't have any packs. They didn't bring any food. They have no materials, traveling materials. They don't even have no fucking weapons.
Might your friend be able to grant me access to their workshops?
Oh, if I know Durin, he'll do far more than that. He'll welcome us with open arms. Ram's horns blaring. Tables filled with salted pork, and enough malt beer to fill the Arduin.
What? Have these people watched any of the original stories? These guys are traveling and don't bring nothing with them. They don't even have weapons with them. What if they were set upon by some bandits or some rogue orcs or just a monster? What if they got there and the dwarves were hostile? These guys, they didn't have anything. They didn't even have a fucking book bag. They didn't even have a little backpack. These guys had nothing with them. They were not prepared for shit. Oh, these fucking stories. These people that write these stories are just... Oh, my God. I think I had something else. Shit, I forgot. The town with the humans. I think these guys were shit. What was that thing with the? I don't even remember. The story was so boring and annoying that I forgot it. Oh, the last thing. So in this story, the story is establishing that Galadriel has developed this intense and uncontrollable anger and hatred and this uncontrollable need for revenge against this Dark Lord. And I think, let me look that up real quick. I'm sorry, guys. Just hold on a second. Let me see, because I'm pretty sure that okay, I'm pretty sure now. As a fan, I've never read the Silmarillion. I've never had an interest in reading that. But I'm pretty sure in the Silmarillion, the real bad guy was this guy named Melkor, or they call him Morgoth, and he's like this. He's like the original Dark Lord, and Sauron, I believe, is one of his servants. I'm pretty sure. And in the show, let me just hold on. Let's take a look here now. There, diddle dirk. All right, so I just read it. I just looked through it real quick. I did Control F and typed it in, and yes, I was right. So in this show, for some unknown reason, it's not Melkor, it's Sauron. So Sauron's the bad guy in here, even though it should have been Melkor, and Sauron was just one of his servants. So that's an issue in itself. But the main issue I'm talking about is, in this story, you have, they're establishing Sauron as the Dark Lord, and Galadriel she has this rage for Sauron because her brother died in this conflict, and so now her whole goal is to find and kill Sauron, right? And in the story, it establishes that she breaks all kinds of protocols, all kinds of rules. She'll sacrifice her own life, the life of all of the people that are with her. She will even sacrifice a trip to the Undying Land, something that the elves all want. She will sacrifice one of the most important things to all the elves just so that she can find and take out Sauron. That is how dogged she is in this quest to find and kill Sauron, right? Right? Okay, so now we've established that. Now, I don't know what happens throughout the rest of the story. Obviously, it didn't take place, but we've already established her hatred and rage for Sauron and her unparalleled desire to find and stop and kill this Dark Lord Sauron. Great. Fast forward to the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And this bitch, she don't give a shit about Sauron. She's like, oh, you guys are gonna go fight him? Here's some gifts. Here, dwarf, you want some of my hair? Here, Frodo, take this fucking bottle of light juice. And Aragorn, here's a knife. Good luck out there. I hope you guys get them. I'll be leaving soon. La la la. That doesn't make sense if you now establish that she wants to, if she's this angry and this full of rage when it comes to Sauron, then in the trilogy, she would have been like, guys, this is the Fellowship. You guys are going to take him on and end him? Fuck it, I'm there. I'm coming with you. I'm coming. Frodo, put your pants on and cover up your dick. I'm coming with you. You guys, I'm going to be the 10th member of the Fellowship, all right? 9? No, there's 10. I hate Sauron so much, I gotta come with you and make sure that he's destroyed and defeated. And I am very powerful. I can take on trolls by myself. I have magical water that if you look into it, you can see stuff. I can talk without making my mouth move. I'd be a good asset. I know shit before it happens. I can see the future and shit. So I'm gonna come along with you because I've wanted to kill Sauron for centuries, and now it's time. Now we know how to do it. We found the One Ring and we could take him out. But that doesn't happen in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So why would they make it in this story where Galadriel is that headstrong about taking him on? Does that just diminish after a while? Does she trip over one of the black dwarves and hit her head on the floor and she forgets this vendetta that she had for Sauron? Why are these people hired to write these stories? All right. So with that being said, that was really all I wanted to say about this shit. Don't watch this. Again, this is a nonsensical, boring trash fest. They put a lot of money into it. The sets look nice, the costumes and stuff look nice, but it's not being true to a Tolkien story. It doesn't have the magic of the Tolkien stories. And we discussed that a little bit earlier. They don't have the magic there because they've removed stuff. You have Asian dwarves walking around, which takes you out of the story. These dwarves are kind of based on these old Celtic people. Do you have Indian Celts walking around? So then why would the Indian lady be playing a fucking dwarf? Do you have Jamaican hobbits? These people are based on what is it? I don't know. Fucking Welsh people? Do you have Jamaican people from Wales? So why is there a Jamaican hobbit? It's not only is it stupid and disrespectful, it's comical and bad, and it doesn't make sense. And it's just stuff happening, characters that you don't know and you don't care about because there's so many of them. I mean, shit. There's so many fucking characters. At least in Lord of the Rings, the main characters, Frodo and Sam, you develop at least like a 90 minutes of time where you get to develop a relationship with them so that you know them and you care about them. And then they start to introduce more characters there, here and there, but the two main characters have been introduced and the story kind of focuses on them. This shit is just all over. It's focusing on all these different people. You got Elrond, you got Galadriel, you have Celebrimbor, you have the new Nori Hobbit lady, you have her family and friends, you have the Meteor Man who we don't really know of who that is yet. You have all these different characters. You have the Puerto Rican elf guy and the woman that he loves who is a single mother raising a kid on her own, which is another thing I forgot. So the Puerto Rican elf, that just sounds dumb. You have the Puerto Rican elf guy discovers that there's some shit happened at this town and it could be something very dangerous. So he decides to take along the single mother who has no combat experience. Why would that make sense? Why would you take her with you? This lady operates a fucking herbal shop. Why would you decide I'm going to go to this town where something dangerous has happened? There may be some villains there that I have to face. And yeah, just come along with me. All right. Okay, that's it. I've run out of stuff. Don't watch this primarily because it's laziness. It's laziness. It's disrespectful to fans. It's not following the source material. And if you want a real Lord of the Rings experience, don't help these cocksuckers out. Just go back and watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Hell, you can watch the Hobbit trilogy. It's not as good as the Lord of the Rings, and it has its own issues, but it's a lot better than this shit. And if you are interested in Tolkien and his works, stick with Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit. This shit is clearly not even really a Tolkien story. So don't waste your time. I'm going to try to watch the rest of the season if I can find it for free. If not, then this will be the last video I make on it. But I just had to make it on this because I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan, and I just wanted to see what other people thought about it. So do with that as you will. I never know how to say that. It's a phrase. And fuck off. All right, bye.